What's going on, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move podcast. Today is the first of the month. It's February 1st at 12:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you to our supporters, subscribers, followers. We really appreciate you guys. And also a special thank you to our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. And then if you go to that Not Move store, you can get some sweet deals over there at notmove-shop.fourthwall.com. Now, I'm going to be talking about some NBA games today. I think we have 10 games on, if I'm not mistaken. 7, 10, yeah. So 10 games. Some of the injury information that we need is out. Some of it is not. Typically, the closer to tip off that I do these shows, the more information that I have in regards to like injuries and whatnot. But we'll still cover that. Also, some of the sources that I look at early in the day could be just a little bit off, maybe a day old. So if I don't give you that exact number, should be in that ballpark. For instance, I went to teamrankings.com this morning and looked up fast break points allowed per game. They currently had the Boston Celtics ranked at fifth. But maybe when they update their system here in a little bit, if they haven't done so already, maybe Boston will move up a few ranks or go down a few ranks. So, anyways, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. So let's jump into it. The first game is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be talking about that game first, Milwaukee at Boston. But let's go through the injuries for all of the games so far that we have today. So Nikola Jokic, center for the Denver Nuggets, is listed as probable. So he played 24 minutes in his return back last game, January 30th against the Clippers. So I would see if he may have a minutes restriction still. I'm seeing here on the FanDuel Daily Fantasy app that he could see a slight bump in minutes if he's ultimately cleared to play in this game today. Once again, he is probable to play. It's rare that I see a player is probable and they do not play, but it does happen from time to time. Next on our list here, Cade Cunningham, point guard for the Detroit Pistons. He is listed as probable with a hip issue, so he'll probably play today. Then Avia, the small forward / power forward for the Portland Trail Blazers, is questionable with a back issue. Questionable to play. Typically, when players are questionable, there's about a 50-50 chance that they play. Sometimes you kind of know, if players if they, don't play a lot of back-to-back games and they're on a back-to-back and they're questionable. I mean, it's probably, more likely that they won't play than they will. But yeah, anyways, Avia is questionable to play. Jamal Murray, point guard / shooting guard for the Denver Nuggets, probable to play with a hip / hamstring issue. Keontae George, point guard / shooting guard for the Utah Jazz. He's out today for the Utah Jazz with an ankle issue. And I'm looking at rotowire.com, ROTOwire.com, and the projected point guard is, let's see, Isaiah Collier. Let's see here. Sarr, power forward / center for the Washington Wizards, is questionable to play today due to right calf soreness. Josh Giddey, point guard / shooting guard for the Chicago Bulls, is out today with a hamstring issue. Devin Booker, point guard / shooting guard for the Phoenix Suns, is out today with an ankle issue. Evan Mobley, This was reported on January 27th that he's expected to miss at least 1 week with a calf issue. He's that power forward slash center for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Austin Reeves, he's questionable to play today. He's missed quite some time now, but looks like he's trending towards playing here soon. Maybe not today, but sometime soon. He is questionable to play with a calf issue. He's that shooting guard slash small forward for the Los Angeles Lakers. That would be big for them today if they could get him back going up against the New York Knicks. Nurkic, center for the Utah Jazz, probable to play today. He's dealing with an illness, it looks like. Franz Wagner, ankle injury management has been ruled out for Sunday's game, is what they're saying here. He's that small forward slash power forward for the Orlando Magic. Russell Westbrook, questionable with a foot issue today. He's the point guard for the Sacramento Kings. So, he used to play for the Wizards. So I believe the Wizards did trade him as well. So if he does end up playing, maybe a revenge game for him. But he's been with multiple teams. Norman Powell, shooting guard slash small forward for the Miami Heat. This was updated yesterday, so he didn't play yesterday due to personal reasons. So right now I'm seeing that he's still questionable, but I would look at that a little bit closer to game time. Tyler Harrow, point guard slash shooting guard for the Miami Heat, doubtful to play today with a ribs issue. Actually, no. What I'm seeing here is that he will not play Saturday against the Bulls. So that was yesterday. So they still haven't updated his information for today. Jalen Williams, Jalen Williams, the small forward slash power forward for the Oklahoma City Thunder, out with a hamstring issue, is what I'm seeing here. On January 19th, they noted here that he will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Jalen Smith, power forward slash center for the Chicago Bulls, has been ruled out with a calf issue for today's game. Darius Garland will not play today for the Cleveland Cavaliers due to a toe issue. He's that point guard for Cleveland. Kevin Porter, point guard slash shooting guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. It says here on January 21st that he won't be playing anytime soon. Drew Holiday will not play today, point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers, due to personal reasons. Huerter, shooting guard slash small forward for the Chicago Bulls, is questionable to play today due to back spasms. Trey Jones, point guard. Okay, that still really hasn't updated. Noah Clowney, power forward for the Brooklyn Nets, has been ruled out today due to a back issue. AJ Mitchell, point guard slash shooting guard for the Oklahoma City Thunder, has been ruled out today due to an abdominal issue. Trey Johnson, point guard slash shooting guard for the Washington Wizards, will not play today due to an ankle issue. Let's see if there's any other just big time injuries here. McBride, point guard slash shooting guard for the New York Knicks, will not play today due to an ankle issue. Malik Monk is questionable to play today due to a heel issue. Point guard slash shooting guard for the Sacramento Kings. Jalen Green, questionable to play today. He's the point guard slash shooting guard for the Phoenix Suns. Just kind of reading through these notes real quick. Robert Williams, center for the Portland Trail Blazers, questionable to play today against Cleveland. He's the center for Portland. Cam Johnson. I'm not really seeing anything on him. Updated information at least. Christian Brown, shooting guard slash small forward for the Denver Nuggets, is listed as doubtful to play today due to an ankle issue. In case I didn't mention, if a player is doubtful, there's a pretty good chance that they do not play. Scoot Henderson, point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers, will not play today due to a hamstring issue. Caruso ruled out today. He's the shooting guard slash small forward for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Caruso's out. And that looks like about it for, the big time injuries. There still are some, some other minor issues. And then obviously, it's still relatively early in the day in regards to, basketball time. So there could definitely be some more information that comes out about injuries and whatnot. Maybe some players are not going to play today that I didn't mention that they didn't have, they didn't update yet, So the two sources that I find the most reliable when it comes to injury updates, maybe you have your own source that you like, but the ones that I find reliable are going to be rotowire.com, ROTO wire.com, and then the FanDuel Daily Fantasy app. And I think they probably have some sort of a partnership. So, all right. So let's get into it. Milwaukee at Boston. Milwaukee has won one regular season game in a row against Boston. A lot of people are probably going to be on the Boston side in this game. Giannis. I don't think he'll be playing, There's some trade rumors. That's another thing. The NBA trade deadline is in a week? So, from here up until the trade deadline, I think it's February 8th, maybe February 5th. When? Let me just find that out. When is the NBA trade deadline? February 5th. Okay, yeah. Thursday, February 5th is what I'm seeing here at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So from now up until then, anything can happen. I heard it's kind of rare for players to get traded mid-game, but it does happen. So that would be pretty unfortunate, if you had a player prop to the over and your player got traded in the middle of a game. But anything can happen leading up to game time. So we'll just keep our eyes open and our ears open. Anyways, I'm looking here on the rotowire.com. They have Giannis listed as out today. I would double check if you're interested in this game, but I don't think he will be playing in this one. He hasn't played in the last two games. Anyways, Milwaukee is 19-27 against the spread this season, and Boston's 26-22. So Milwaukee ranks fifth worst in the NBA against the spread this season. My concern on this game would be that just a lot of people are going to be on Boston. So if you're like one of those people that like to fade the public, I think, this could be the number one team that people are on today is Boston. I'm sure Boston is a home favorite. I just want to do these splits too because I mentioned Boston's better against the spread, but what about as a home favorite? Um, Boston is 8-10 as a home favorite. Milwaukee as an away underdog is 8-7. So Milwaukee is technically, on that uh, search query there, Milwaukee is better against the spread as a road underdog than Boston is as a home favorite. Boston is favored by a lot today, 12.5 points, but for good reason, right? Especially if Giannis is out. So, what I will say is that both of these teams are pretty good at defending against points in the paint and fast break points per game. Where they're both most vulnerable is to the 3-point shot. Boston ranks 26th in 3-point field goals allowed per game. So I'm seeing guys here that have been good for Milwaukee this season with the 3-point shot. In this order is AJ Green, Ryan Rollins, and Miles Turner. And then, Milwaukee, they rank 22nd in 3-point field goals allowed per game. And, Boston has some pretty good 3-point shooters with Derek White, Hauser, Anthony Simons, Pritchard. I don't know if Anthony Simons still plays with Boston. I'm seeing that he does. So I know there's been some small trades that have happened and whatnot. I may say, a player has done good for this team or whatever, but they may have just been recently traded or something. But yeah, anyways, both of these teams are below average in regards to 3-point field goals allowed per game to opposing teams. Milwaukee ranks 22nd in rebounds allowed per game. So if you like a rebound prop for Boston, you got that working for you. Also, Milwaukee ranks 19th in assists allowed per game. So if you like a player for Boston getting assists, you got that working for you. But Boston really isn't good at getting assists. They rank second worst in the NBA in assists per game. So, but they are good at those rebounds. They rank 8th best as a team in rebounds per game. Turnover differential, Boston takes care of the ball very well. They rank first in the NBA in turnovers per game. So they're not turning the ball over a lot. And Milwaukee's not forcing their opponents to turn the ball over a lot. So, I give a turnover advantage there to Boston. Basically, Boston Boston really, outmatches Milwaukee in this game. It's just the question of, do you want to fade the public or not in this game? And I'm going to go ahead and say Milwaukee covers the plus 12.5. I don't feel great about it, but that's just the way I'm going to be leaning on it. Milwaukee has lost 4 games in a row. Boston's won their last game. So, but as we mentioned, Milwaukee's better against the spread as a road dog than Boston is as a home favorite. But, I mean, I can't blame you if you're taking Boston today, especially if Giannis is going to be out. But, yeah, I'm basically just leaning towards Milwaukee, mainly to fade the public in this one. But if you guys have any questions about any player props in this game, feel free to let me know. I know some people are interested in like triple double props. Jaylen Brown has had a triple double in one of his last 20 games against Milwaukee. Ryan Rollins hasn't had a triple double in all 4 career games against Boston. So, Brooklyn at Detroit. Both of these teams are on a 1-game win streak. Detroit has won 4 regular season games in a row against Brooklyn. Technically, Brooklyn is better against the spread this season than Detroit. Barely. Brooklyn allows a good amount of points in the paint per game to opposing teams, and Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham are really good at scoring points in the paint. Typically, there's going to be more points in the paint scored per game than fast break points per game. So whenever I see, a team has a points in the paint advantage, I think that advantage is typically bigger than the fast break advantage. It depends on some other factors, but typically, if a team is good at scoring points in the paint, which Detroit is, not just, Duran and Cunningham, but as a team, Detroit ranks second best in points in the paint per game, and Brooklyn ranks 24th in points in the paint allowed per game. So if you like any Jalen Duran or Cade Cunningham props today and points, you have that going for you. And then we could also look at the NBA defense versus position thing here. So I'm looking at fantasypros.com. You may have your own source that you like to look at for NBA defense versus position. But here on fantasypros.com, I just want to filter this real quick by point guard and center and points per game allowed by Brooklyn to both of those positions. Brooklyn, according to this source, they've allowed the second fewest points per game to opposing point guards. So, that's not looking great for Cade Cunningham, but Jalen Duren, Brooklyn allows according to this source, they allow the 10th most points per game to opposing centers. So, Jalen Duren, and Duren's better at scoring points in the paint per game than Cunningham. So, I think Jalen Duren would be the first player prop that I would look into here. But if you guys don't have any, player prop questions, I'm just going to cover these games generally, and then if I have some time at the end, I'll go back and break down some player props. Just kind of doing this on the fly here. Okay, so but I mentioned Cade Cunningham. Brooklyn's defended against that pretty well this year against point guards points per game, but Cade Cunningham does also have a big fast breaks points per game advantage. Brooklyn, they rank 28th in fast break points allowed per game, so third worst. And Cade Cunningham ranks first on the Pistons and 22nd in the NBA in fast break points per game, so he does have an advantage there as well. The thing that I think about whenever I'm thinking about the Brooklyn Nets is Michael Porter Jr., right? He's really that offensive stud here for Brooklyn. And the problem is that a big part of his game is dependent on that three-point shot. He ranked second best in three-point field goals made per game this season in the entire NBA. But Detroit has defended against that well. Detroit ranks 9th in three-point field goals allowed per game this season. So they're above average at defending against that. And then, Detroit as a team, they're about average at defending points per game to Michael Porter's position, that small forward position. And then three-point field goals allowed to his specific position. Detroit is below average at defending against that. So although Detroit's good as a team in limiting those three-point field goals per game, I think, Michael Porter could possibly still get his three-point shot off today, just based on the fact that Detroit hasn't been great at defending against his specific position. In regards to that three-point shot. But I would also, look at Michael Porter Jr.'s history against Detroit. What's he done for us lately? Is he scoring at a higher rate this season than previous seasons, which I'm sure he is? Just kind of his history against some of these defenders that he could be seeing, whether it be Thompson or Tobias Harris. But we'll see if we can go look back at that here in a bit. Assists allowed per game. Brooklyn ranks 23rd in that category. So if you like a player for Detroit with the assist props, you got that working for you. Just if you wanted Cade Cunningham assists, Brooklyn has been below average in allowing assists per game to point guards in this season. And then, Detroit is just a very good defensive team. They rank second best in team defensive efficiency, whereas Brooklyn ranks 26 in that category. So, the good thing about if you like Brooklyn today, is that Detroit sends their opponents to the free throw line more than any other team in the league per game this season. So, let's see. NBA player free throw attempts per game leaders. Let's go see if there's anybody maybe for Brooklyn that is, taking a lot of free throw attempts per game. Michael Porter Jr. ranks first on Brooklyn and 35th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game, according to ESPN.com. So if you do like Michael Porter Jr. points today, you have that extra benefit for you. Who am I going to lean with this in this one? Let me just go check a couple other things. I just want to look at the against the spread trend real quick. With Brooklyn being the away underdog. How are the Brooklyn Nets against the spread as a road dog? Brooklyn Nets as a road dog. 12, 11, and 1. And then Detroit as a home favorite. So 12, 11, and 1 versus 9 and 10. I mean, it's the same situation here, pretty much. Brooklyn is better against the spread as a road dog than Detroit is as a home favorite. But I mean, I'm going to have to lean towards Detroit in this one. I think, the public is going to be leaning with Detroit in this one as well. But, I just think maybe not as many people will be on Detroit as Boston. And, I mean, I just see some big advantages here for Detroit. Really, the points in the paint, the fast breaks advantage, just the whole defense. It's very lopsided. So I'm just going to be leaning with Detroit in this one. And then before I move on to this next game, I just want to mention that Cade Cunningham has had a triple-double in 0 out of 10 career games against Brooklyn. All right. Chicago at Miami. Chicago has won one regular season game in a row against Miami. Miami is better against the spread this season than Chicago. Miami ranks 5th best against the spread with a 28 and 22 against the spread record. Chicago's 25 and 24. Both of these teams are vulnerable to allowing points in the paint scored on them per game. Chicago allows slightly more points in the paint per game than Miami does, but once again, they're both below average. So if you like Vucevic for Chicago, or Jaquez or Harrow, is Harrow even in for? Last that I saw Harrow, I'm looking at it right now. He didn't play yesterday against the Bulls. Did they play the Bulls yesterday? Hold on. Yeah. So both of these teams are on back-to-backs. That would be another trend that you could look at too. how are these teams on back-to-backs? But yeah, he didn't play yesterday against the Bulls. They haven't really updated his status yet. So I would maybe he will play today. But that would be a big acquisition there for Miami. But right now, I mean, I would be thinking that he won't because he didn't yesterday. But we'll see about that. Okay. And then both of these teams are about average at defending fast break points per game, and both teams do have some. They're good. Both of these teams are good at scoring fast break points. Dosunmu, Kobe White, and Giddy. They all rank in the top 27 in the NBA in fast break points per game. But Giddy's out today, so really, I think that's going to be advantageous there for those guards for Chicago, Kobe White and Dosunmu. And then Norman Powell, Harrow, and Jaquez, they're all within the top 50 in the NBA in fast break points per game. So if you like those guys in this game, you have that added benefit. But Jaquez is pretty interesting here. Now he should be coming off the bench, right? But the fact that he has a fast break advantage and a points in the paint advantage here makes me, if I were looking at player props, I'd, probably be one of the first players I would start with. And then, obviously we could look at bench points scored or bench points allowed in the NBA. Teams that have allowed the most bench points. Chicago has allowed the 7th most bench points this season. That is not by a per game basis, which, if you can find that in a per game basis, I think that's better than just who allows the most bench points this season. Because what if another team has played an extra 3 games than Chicago? Then there is a big, probably a better likelihood that even if they do have a good bench defense, that they will go ahead and look like they have a worse bench defense than Chicago. But, right now it just looks like there's been a couple teams that have played maybe one extra game than Chicago. So, I'm looking at statnews.com. So I think based on this source, there's a pretty good chance that Chicago is not good at defending against, bench players. So I think Jaquez is worth looking into. If you guys have the time to do that, I'll try to remember that on the way out. But yeah, Norman Powell, I would give him, a look there for Miami as well, because of his 3-point advantage. He did not play yesterday, and I mentioned this at the start of the show. He didn't play yesterday due to personal reasons, and I still don't have an update on whether or not he's still dealing with those personal issues or not. But I would think that there may be a chance he doesn't play if he was out yesterday due to personal reasons. But let's say he does play, he's good. He's a good 3-point shooter. In regards to 3-point field goals made per game, Chicago as a team is below average at defending against that. Now, to his specific position, Chicago allows the 9th most 3-point field goals allowed to opposing shooting guards, which is Norman Powell's listed position. So if he does end up playing, I think there's a decent chance that he gets, takes advantage of those 3-point field goals. If you like any assists in this game, obviously with Giddy being out, there's got to be probably somebody else for Chicago to step up with the assists, right? But both of these teams, Chicago and Miami, are good at assists per game, and both of the defenses are bad in assists allowed per game. So I think if you like assist props, that could be good there. Both of them are below average in allowing rebounds per game to opposing teams as well. So if you like any rebound props, I think it's worth consideration there. And then just so you guys know, Vucevic has not had a triple double in his last 20 games against Miami. I'm going to be leaning towards Miami in this one. I think with Giddey being out, that could be big. And let's move on. Really, I think that's kind of the deciding factor for me. Giddey being out. Miami's better against the spread this season as well. They're actually really good. Miami's favored by 5.5? Yeah, I'm cool with that. Maybe take it down to 4.5. Sacramento on an 8-game losing streak at Washington. This is a barn burner here. Both of these teams are bad this year, from my understanding, right? And I'm looking at the NBA standings. Wizards have 12 wins, and 35 losses. They're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and the Kings are at the bottom of the Western Conference. So this is a battle between the worst teams in each of their respective conferences. So yeah, that's always fun there. Both of these teams are vulnerable to points in the paint allowed per game. They're both ranked near the bottom of the NBA in those categories. So Sabonis and Sarr, I think, have big advantages today just based on that factor alone. Obviously, maybe that advantage won't be as big if Washington's really good at defending against points per game to opposing centers or something like that, But I'm looking at the fantasypros.com. Sacramento, according to this source, Sacramento's allowed the most points per game to opposing centers, and Washington's allowed the third most points per game to opposing centers. So I think, Sabonis and Sarr could definitely take advantage of those vulnerabilities. Sarr's questionable, though. I mentioned that at the start of the segment. And then fast break advantage, Levine, and looks like Keegan Murray might be out today. Yeah, I don't think Keegan Murray is going to play today. But yeah, so Levine, I would give the advantage there too for Sacramento. He's good at scoring fast break points per game. When I looked this morning, he was ranked 20th in the NBA in fast break points per game. He ranks first on the Sacramento Kings in fast break points per game. And Washington's slightly below average in allowing fast break points per game. So if you like Levine's points today, you got that working for you. Also, Washington allows the third most points per game to opposing shooting guards. Washington allows the third most points per game to opposing shooting guards. That is the projected position that Levine will be playing today. So I think it's worth, looking into that. And then he is also a pretty decent three-point shooter here. But where's Washington on this list? And Washington is below average in three-point field goals allowed to opposing shooting guards. And, with Westbrook being potentially out, or is he out? He's not playing today. Russell Westbrook is out. I think whenever I got on the air, he was questionable. Yeah, now I'm seeing that Westbrook is ruled out. So There's got to be some other guys here for the Kings that take over that usage rate, right? Because Russell Westbrook leads the Sacramento Kings in usage percentage, player usage percentage, usage rates, according to statmuse.com. Statmuse and NBA.com sometimes have slightly different numbers, but I like to use statmuse.com because I like the way it's formatted a little bit better here. But the next guy in line I'm seeing is Zach LaVine and player usage rate. And usage rate basically tells you how important a player means to their offense. You could Google the term or whatever search engine you'd like to use. But yeah. So Levine, I think, is going to be a guy that could get an increase of usage here today. Malik Monk. Now, last that I checked, he is questionable, and I'm still seeing that Monk is questionable. But then it'll be, Sabonis. I would also just, see if Sabonis is on any sort of restrictions. He's still, getting into the swing of things. How many games has Sabonis been back? He's been back. Looks like about it looks like he's been hitting the low 30s. That's been his top minutes since he's been back. 30, 32. Looks like he's been back for about 7 games now. So I guess as he's, getting a little bit more comfortable out there, his conditioning's going up. But I would just double check to make sure that Sabonis isn't on a minutes restriction. If you're interested in any Sabonis props today, if you like anybody for Sacramento to get assists, really for either team, but Washington does allow the second most assists per game to opposing teams. And then Washington allows the most rebounds per game to opposing teams. So Sabonis, if you like Sabonis on those rebounds, I think that's another place to at least look at today. I'm not saying that I like it, right? There's so many player props out there. This is more of like a general discussion that I'm having now. But I think it's definitely worth looking into, and not just Washington allows the most rebounds per game to opposing teams, but I'm seeing that they allow the most rebounds per game to opposing centers, which is what Sabonis is listed as today, the projected center there for Sacramento. So I think that's it's a spot at least worth looking into a little bit more if you're interested in that. And then we got to talk about the triple double a little bit. Washington, Sabonis is capable of it. Does he have one this season, though? I know he's been kind of close, if I'm not mistaken. He does not have one this season. I'm seeing plus 820 here on this book that I'm looking at. Washington is below average in allowing not just assists per game to opposing teams, but also assists to opposing centers. Sabonis has had a triple-double in 4 out of 23 career games against Washington. So obviously there's some other information that we could look at leading up to game time, but I think it is possible that he gets a triple-double today. And then Westbrook, he's not playing today. He had his triple-double numbers here as well. But Sacramento is the worst team against the spread this season. Washington is the 6th worst. Sacramento's favored by 2.5. What about on the road as a road favorite for Sacramento? Probably is not going to be a huge sample size, though. But I'll look for it real quick. It doesn't even look like Sacramento's been a road favorite this season. um, as an away team, how about that? Let's look at Sacramento as an away team, 9-16, so they still rank third worst against the spread as the away team. Washington as the home team, 11-13. So Washington's better against in regards to those against the spread trends that I've looked at so far. And also, Washington is 2-5 on Sundays this season, and Sacramento is 2-9 on Sundays. So Sacramento's played four more Sunday games than Washington this season, but they've won the same amount. I think SAR's availability is a big, thing to keep up with as well for this one. I'm going to lean towards Sacramento in this one. If I have to lean, against the spread, I guess I lean towards Sacramento too. But I mean, if I'm playing Sacramento today, I'm really just looking at that money line. So that's just the way I'd be leaning on that one today. Sacramento Kings money line. And let's move on. Utah at Toronto. Utah has lost 5 games in a row. Toronto's lost 2 games in a row. Toronto has won 2 regular season games in a row against Utah. Brandon Ingram, right, for Toronto. He's listed as that projecting shooting guard for Toronto. If you like him for points today, I do like the fact that the most points that Brandon Ingram has ever scored in an NBA game was January 16th, 2020 against the Utah Jazz, where he scored 49 points. Also on this day in 1995, John Stockton, I'm sure many of you do know him. If you don't, he used to be the point guard for the Utah Jazz. Anyways, he passed Magic Johnson on the all-time assist leaders list. Utah has a 1-4 record on Sundays this season, and Toronto has a 5-5 record. I think with Keontae George being out today for Utah makes things a little bit more difficult for them. Utah, they have allowed the most points per game to opposing teams this season. I think Scotty Barnes and R.J. Barrett have a decent points in the paint advantage here today. Utah is not terrible at allowing points in the paint per game, but they do rank 19th in that category. Scotty Barnes ranks 17th in points in the paint per game this season, and then R.J. Barrett ranks 35th. Where I do give Toronto a very big advantage today is going to be the fast break advantage. No other team allows more fast break points per game than Utah this season, and Toronto has plenty of guys that are good at scoring fast break points. R.J. Barrett ranks first on the team and 8th best in the NBA in fast break points per game. And then you got Quickly, that point guard for Toronto. Ingram, I mentioned him earlier, and Scotty Barnes. So basically, 4 out of the projected starting 5 for Toronto are all within the top 50 in the NBA in fast break points per game against a team that allows the most fast break points per game. So, and then, Quickly, I do give him not just that fast break advantage, but I got to give him a 3-point advantage as well, only based on the fact that Utah allows the most 3-point field goals to opposing teams this season. Now, maybe not to a specific position, but to opposing teams, and he ranks first on Toronto in 3-point field goals made per game. And when we look at, he's that listed, he's Quickly is the projected point guard today for Toronto. What I'm seeing here on fantasypros.com is that the Utah Jazz allow the most points per game to opposing point guards and the most 3-point field goals made per game two opposing point guards. So I think, quickly is definitely somebody worth looking at today if you're looking for those props. Obviously, I would like to do a little bit more research on it. If I were going to make a play on it, look at Quickly's history against Utah. Look at Quickly's history against maybe Nurkic. I know, they probably won't be seeing, much time defending each other, but if Quickly, has a maybe there's some statistic out there where it says Quickly is averages 30 points per game in games where Nurkic is playing, then that would be a big that'd be a big time statistic there. But yeah, Quickly versus and sometimes especially like the bigger a game is. I mean, I think that fading the statistics, so going whatever the statistics say, go the other way. I think that um, I like to do that more in like big time games. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you have a better way than I do, but like this, like the NFL championship that's coming up here next week, next Sunday. You know, um, maybe that will be a time that I find a trend that is just great and statistics lead towards this player doing really well. But since everybody's looking at the same information and everybody's on the same player, maybe I'll go the other way and fade the public. So, um, but yeah, so I think Quickly has a big advantage there. I don't know what his over under is on points. I'll look real quick just because I mean, all of Quickly's advantages are aligned here. His fast break advantage, his 3-point field goal advantage, over under 17 and a half on this book that I'm looking at. So I'll just do, Quickly versus Utah Jazz stats real quick. Let's do a search query here at statmuse.com. How many times has Quickly gone over that in his last few games? Excuse me, against Utah. So I think 17 and a half may be too high, because I think we have to consider a couple of things here. One, blowout potential. The Raptors are favored by 10 and a half points. So if the Raptors are up by 30 points at the end of the third quarter, maybe Quickly doesn't see the floor anymore. But the Raptors would have to get up those points somehow, right? But there is that factor, right? And a possible blowout game here today. But, over under 17 and a half, right? He's only gone over that in 2 out of 10 career games against Utah, but they were his last 2 games, which were about a year ago, 11 months ago, where he went over. He had 34 points in one of these games and then 20 points against Utah. But if we took that down to 15 plus points, he's gone over that in 6 of his last 7 games against Utah. 6 out of 10 career games against Utah. So more times than not, he's had 15 plus. And, I don't really know what he's done for us lately, but I know a lot of you guys have like apps that maybe you even like pay a fee for that shows you what players are hot and who's not right now, and maybe you have Quickly on your list today. Maybe you don't. But we can just check his last few games. How many times has he had, let's say, 15 plus points? 2 out of his last 4, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 4 out of 7, 5 out of 8, 6 out of 9, 7 out of 10. Really, 8 out of 11, 9 out of 12, 10 out of 13, 11 out of 14 games. 11 out of his last 14 games, he's had at least 15 points. So Yeah, I think he could definitely be somebody worth looking into. And then I would also look at like Quickly versus Nurkic. What if he's never gone over this? Had 15 plus points in like 20 career games against Nurkic. Probably not, but maybe. Since I've already gone this far in the research, let's just go look at it real quick. They've played 8 career games against each other, according to landofbasketball.com. And they have a 4-4 career record against each other. So today's the rubber match. How many times has Quickly had that 15 plus against Nurkic? 1 out of 2, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 4, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 5 out of 7, 5 out of 8 career games. Quickly has gone over, had 15 plus points against Nurkic. So, and then you could go into some other things here. Is Quickly scoring at a bigger rate this season compared to previous seasons? He has a usage rate, right? On my notes here, I have his usage rate at 21.5%. You could compare that with other players from a different game, and their usage rate. Um, but not just that, but also, um, there's some other factors though. Instead of just like looking at usage rate, let's say Emmanuel Quickly, right? I said he has 21.5% usage rate. Let's say that, you know, Mikal Bridges for the Knicks has the same usage rate. And I'm just using this as an example here. Okay. And then they both have the same over under. It's like, okay. And then what I would do is to see, are there any injuries for either team that could make one of the players' usage rates go higher than what it currently is at? And, how many players, um, let me use a different example for this one. So let's say, you got Markkanen and RJ Barrett, right? They both lead their teams in usage rate. But Keontae George is right there with Markkanen. RJ Barrett is a little bit further behind Ingram than Keontae George is to Markkanen. So just based on that factor alone, you would think that Ingram means more to his team than Markkanen. But today is probably not that case, right? Because Keontae George is out. So Markkanen's points over under on points has to be higher than Ingram's today. I haven't looked, but I'm going to look real quick. I'm sure there's probably a good difference there. 23.5 for Markkanen, 22.5 for Ingram. So, uh, anyways, oh, where was I? If you like anybody for Toronto to get assists in this game, Utah allows the most assists per game to opposing teams. Even if you like rebound props for Toronto, I think it's worth looking at. Utah ranks 20th in rebounds allowed per game. Utah ranks worst in team defensive efficiency this season. I kind of like Toronto this season. I was talking about them on that pregame, not pregame, but like NBA preseason episode. I think that they were a sleeper this season, and I was kind of high on them last year too. They were dealing with so many injuries last year, so I like Toronto in this one, especially with Keontae George being unavailable. Um, yeah, I'll have to lean towards Toronto minus 10.5 is the line that I'm seeing here. Now, there probably are going to be some people on Toronto in this one, but that's just the way it is sometimes. So But yeah, I'm going to lean towards Toronto. And then I looked at Nurkic. He hadn't had a career triple double against Toronto. He's been on a triple double tear, from my understanding. I mean, like his last 3 out of 4 games, Nurkic has had a triple double, I believe. Let's go. Let's just go look real quick. Um, 3 out of his last 4 games that he's played, he's had a triple double, and I think he only has like 4 career triple doubles. So, uh, dude's on fire right now. Once again, he's probable to play due to an illness today. Um, but yeah, he's never had a career triple double against Toronto throughout those 18 games that he's played against them. Keontae George, he's out, so I'm not going to go over that. Scotty Barnes, he's in the past, I know he's been a triple double candidate, but he doesn't have one in 8 career games against Utah. Quickly doesn't have one in 10 career games against Utah. Ingram hasn't had one in 23 career games against Utah. And then RJ Barrett has not had one in 11 career games against Utah. But yeah, I'm going to lean towards Toronto in that one. And then we got the Lakers and the New York Knicks. Probably the game that I'm looking forward to the most today, even though I'm a Nuggets fan. I think, putting my Nugget fanhood aside here, this is the game of the day. Lakers at Knicks. The Lakers have won 1 game in a row this season. The Knicks have won 5 games in a row. So the Knicks are rolling right now. But the Lakers have won 3 regular season games in a row against the New York Knicks. Okay. 3 regular season games in a row against the Knicks. These teams played on this exact date and location 1 year ago today. The Lakers won that game 128-112. LeBron had a 33-point triple double. Josh Hart had a 26-point triple double. Also on this day, uh, last season, right? Doncic was traded to the Lakers on this date. Let me double check that. When was Doncic traded by Dallas? Oh, February 2nd. The night of February 1st. You may want to just like look into that, but if you're interested in that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm seeing 1 year ago today is when Doncic was traded by the Dallas Mavericks. And here's an interesting trend. Is that the Lakers have a 9-0 record on Sundays this season. 9-0. And the Knicks are 6-1. So the Knicks still are have a very respectable record on Sundays. But Lakers have played more games on Sundays this season, and they're undefeated. Austin Reeves, I mentioned he's questionable to play in this game. He hasn't played in a while. Maybe he does come back today. We'll just have to see leading up to game time. Now, the Lakers are better against the spread this season than the Knicks. The Knicks have played 2 extra games and have lost 2 extra games, so they're pretty close. But yeah, Lakers do have that advantage there. The Lakers are about average in points in the paint allowed per game. So, I don't necessarily give like Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns a huge advantage in that regard, but I think they'll get theirs in the paint. The Lakers are really good at scoring points in the paint, but the Knicks have defended against that really well this season. Knicks ranked 4th best in points in the paint allowed per game this season. Both of these teams are about average in fast break defense. LeBron ranks 1st in the NBA in fast break points per game this season. Bridges ranks 17th for the Knicks. Overall, LeBron is I think, I don't think LeBron has a huge fast break points advantage in this game, but I think, it's not something to be concerned about, if you're thinking about taking his over today. I would be more concerned, uh, taking LeBron if the Knicks were, in the top 10 in fast break points allowed per game. And they might be after the source that I looked at, which was teamrankings.com. Maybe they haven't updated their system yet today. And when they do update, maybe, the Knicks will rank better than that. I'll look at it real quick. But I am concerned about LeBron's points in regards to the fact that he's good at scoring points in the paint, and the Knicks have been good at defending against that this year. Opponent fast break points. Still got New York listed as ranked 14th there. But where I do give, looks like really in regards to how other teams rank, both of these teams are most vulnerable to the 3-point field goals allowed per game. Instead of the, if the question is where are they most vulnerable defensively, points in the paint allowed per game, fast break points allowed per game, or 3-pointers allowed per game. It's going to be both of these teams are most vulnerable at 3-point field goals allowed per game compared to how other teams rank at those other categories. The Knicks as a team ranked 25th in 3-point field goals allowed per game. So that really seems to be, like the way to beat the Knicks. I don't know if that's been the recipe for success for teams throughout the season against the Knicks, but just looking at it on paper, that's what I would assume. But, Doncic ranks 4th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. And the fact that he was traded a year ago today, I mean, it's hard to imagine that he's not going to come out fired up and put on a show here at Madison Square Garden. I would say that he has a extra incentive to today specifically, and the Knicks have allowed the 6th most 3-point field goals made per game to opposing point guards, which is what Doncic is listed to play today. He's projected to be that starting point guard. Now the Knicks, as a team, I'm trying to see how many points per game they've allowed to point guards. They're above average at defending points per game to point guards. But, another cool thing about this game is that Doncic is going to be going up against Brunson, and they were teammates in Dallas. I'm interested just looking at that history. Doncic versus Brunson, head-to-head statistics. I just want to see, Doncic does have a 2-0 career record against Brunson. Played each other twice. Doncic did not have a triple-double in those games, but, their most recent regular season game that they've played against each other. Is it regular season or no, this is career history. Anyways, they played 2 career games against each other, and in their last game, both of them had 30 plus points. Doncic had 32, Brunson had 39. Both of them had 10 plus assists. They haven't had a triple double against each other before, but Doncic has had 30 plus points in both of those career games against Brunson. And then, overall, though, it looks like the Knicks have, although Doncic ranks better than these other players for the Knicks in 3-point field goals made per game, the Knicks have 3 guys, but since McBride is out today, they have 2 guys in the top 50 in 3-point field goals made per game. The Lakers do rank 19th in 3-pointers allowed per game as a team, 2 opposing teams. But, Brunson and Mikal Bridges, they since the Lakers are below average in that category, I think it's worth looking into Brunson and or Bridges props if you guys are interested in that. I just want to look real quick to the specific position, point guard position, which is what Brunson is projected to start today. How are the Lakers at defending against the three ball to that point guard position? They're slightly below average. And then Bridges is projected to start at that small forward position. How are the Lakers at defending against that fifth worst? So the Lakers, relative to other teams, are more vulnerable to defending against the small forward 3-point field goals made per game than the point guard, although they're below average in both of those categories. The Lakers have actually allowed the most points per game to opposing small forwards than any team in the league. So I think Mikal Bridges, statistically, according to just what I've looked at, looks like a player worth looking into a little bit more. Lakers assists allowed per game. They rank 24th. So if you like anybody for the Knicks for assists, you got that working with you. Let me try to just glance to see where the Lakers have been most vulnerable. Is there a specific position? Yeah, they've allowed the fourth most assists per game to opposing point guards. So if you like Brunson's assists today, you got that working for you. Obviously, there's some other things we could look at, right? But I know you guys probably don't have all day long to be looking at player props. Maybe you do. These are just places that I would, look at first. Just trying to see if there's any other. Anyways, let's see here. Rebounds. Both of these teams are good at limiting their opponents from getting rebounds. Lakers rank second best. The Knicks rank fifth best. The Knicks are better at getting rebounds as a team than the Lakers. Much better. But, rebound props, unless you're getting a good number, I'd maybe be a little hesitant about it today. But I'm going to do something too here in just a minute. Once I get done breaking down the rest of the games, how many more we got? Like 4 more after this. But I'm going to start doing something kind of cool here with you guys. So we'll do that here at the end of the show. But anyways, yeah, give me the Lakers in this one. Lakers plus 4.5. Personally, I'd probably move it up to 6.5. Just depends on what you're comfortable with. That's just what I would lean with. I like the fact that the Lakers have a 9-0 record on Sunday. I like the fact that these teams played this exact game in the exact location a year ago today, and the Lakers won by 16 points. I like the fact that the Lakers are better against the spread this season than the Knicks. And I like the fact that Doncic got traded a year ago today. He might come out with an extra chip on his shoulder. So, yeah, I'm just going to be leaning with the Lakers in this one, plus the 4.5. But I would feel personally more comfortable at plus 6.5. And before I move on, I just want to say Doncic does have a triple-double in 3 out of 12 career games against the Knicks. So 25% of his career games against the Knicks, he's had a triple-double. LeBron has had one in 7 of his last 20 against the Knicks. The thing about LeBron is that he doesn't have one this year, though, right? I mean, anyways, yeah, he doesn't have one this season. Doncic has 6 triple doubles, and then Josh Hart, he does have a triple double in 1 out of 13 career games against the Lakers. In fact, it was on this day last season, right? So if you like Josh Hart for some reason for a triple double today, you got that working for you. Triple double props, just like naturally, I think players are going to have the most trouble with the rebounds, just because both teams are good at limiting team rebounds. But maybe there's a position that these teams are not good at. I'll just try to glance at it real quick. Anyways, that would be my probably just based on the general information I'm looking at. The concern that I would have for taking a triple double in this game is are the rebounds. But anyways, we got Orlando at the San Antonio Spurs. Orlando's on a 2-game win streak. Spurs on a 1-game losing streak. Spurs are on a back-to-back. So they played yesterday, and the Spurs have won one regular season game in a row against Orlando. Franz Wagner is out. I mentioned that at the start of the show. Orlando ranks third worst against the spread this season. Looks like the Spurs are favored by 5.5. I think, I'm going to have to just come out and say that that's where I'm going to be leaning with. And that is, I'd feel probably, it's a 4.5. Yeah, I'd feel more, I feel okay about that, just leaving it where it's at. Maybe you like to tease that line a little bit. I don't know all of your guys' preferences. Maybe you like to go up, maybe you like to do the reverse teaser. But yeah, I'm gonna have to lean towards the Spurs minus that 4.5 today. I don't like the fact that Franz Wagner is out for Orlando, and I don't like the fact that Orlando ranks third worst against the spread this season. I see that the Spurs have a big points per game advantage as well. Orlando slight points in the paint advantage. It really just comes down to injuries and stuff because I could see that this team ranks this or that, but if one or multiple big time players for those teams are out, that changes things. But the Spurs do a good job at defending points in the paint this season. Orlando's below average, so Wembanyama, I think, has an advantage there. He ranks 42nd in the NBA and first on this Spurs team in points in the paint per game this season. Orlando has done a pretty good job at limiting points per game to centers this season, though, But I still give Wembanyama an advantage there. I just want to see real quick how Orlando is at defending against 3-point field goals to opposing centers. They rank second best. So, but I mean, I don't know how many centers in the NBA are really like chucking up threes consistently. You got Jokic, just on some players that are playing today off the top of my head. Maybe Karl Anthony Towns, Wemby. So I mean, I think the sample there is probably limited, but yeah, I think Wembanyama is definitely somebody to look into more today in regards to those player props. And then fast break points. The Spurs are real good at limiting fast break points per game. Orlando is below average as a team and allowing those fast break points per game. So if you'd like guys Castle or Vassell, I think those guys have advantages. They both rank in the top 50 in fast break points per game this season, and Orlando is below average at defending against that. The Spurs, they seem like they're the most vulnerable to the 3-point shot out of those three categories: points in the paint allowed, fast break points allowed, and 3-point field goals allowed. Looks like they're more vulnerable to the 3-point shot, but Orlando doesn't have a player in the top 50, from my understanding, in 3-point field goals made per game. I think the guy that I'd be concerned about maybe nailing some threes would be maybe Desmond Bane. If I remember from last season, he was on the top 50 list. So, but he's projected to be the small forward, and the Spurs have limited small forwards to the third fewest amount of 3-point field goals made per game, according to fantasypros.com. Both of these teams are pretty good at they're above average, I should say, at limiting assists per game to opposing team and rebounds per game to opposing teams. Um, Orlando allows their opponents to get to the free throw line more than league average. So if you like a player, point total today, and they're good at getting to the free throw line, I think you got that working for you as well. And I just want to see, what other teams maybe that I that could that you could benefit from that flaw. Utah and Toronto, they allow their opponents. They're near the bottom of the league and allowing opponents to the free throw line. So if you like a player point prop for Utah or that Toronto team today, and they're good at getting to the free throw line, I think that's an extra bonus for you. Same with Sacramento and Washington game. If you got a player prop going over the points and they're good at getting to the free throw line there, that could be a few more easy points for you. Well, I'm not going to say easy because I don't want you to come down to your last. You need 1 point, and your player shooting 2 free throws, and then he misses, and I jinx you. So let me just retract that statement there. Nothing's easy. All right. Where were we? Banchero hasn't had a triple-double in 6 career games against San Antonio. Castle hasn't had a triple-double in 2 career games against Orlando. Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Spurs in this one. Then Clippers, 1-game losing streak at Phoenix Suns, 3-game winning streak for Phoenix. Phoenix has won 2 regular season games in a row against the Clippers. If you like Zubac today, I'm not saying that history is just because a player has done good historically against a team doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do good today. But if you like, a player to do good and historically they've done good against a team, I think that's just an added benefit, So Zubac, if you like him today for points, the most points Zubac has ever scored in a game was on March 4th, 2025 against Phoenix. Don't know how many points he scored, but we can check real quick. Zubac's career high points. 35 points against the Suns, March 4th, 2025. I'm not saying that I like him or don't like him, but I'm just saying, just wanted to give you that information. And then also on this date in year 2020, so 6 years ago to the day, San Diego State University retired Kawhi Leonard's number 15 jersey at halftime. And you may want to double check me on this, but I don't think Kawhi Leonard has lost a game on February 1st in the NBA since he's been in the NBA, but I think he's played 3. But he played college ball at San Diego State University, so maybe he comes out with an extra chip on his shoulder today. I know he's been balling lately, if I'm not mistaken. So, but last that I checked, yeah, Devin Booker is out for Phoenix today. Phoenix does have the best record against the spread this season. And when I'm looking at the spread, I'm seeing that Phoenix is favored by 1.5. Both of these teams are pretty good at defending against points in the paint per game. Phoenix ranks 10th best. Clippers rank 9th best. So, I mentioned Zubac scored the most career points in a game against Phoenix in 2025. But, his biggest offensive strength is probably those points in the paint per game, right? He ranks first on the team, 11th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. But it worries me that Phoenix is good at defending against that as a team. Uh, Points per game allowed to his specific position looks like about average. What about Zubac versus Mark Williams? Head to head statistics. They've played 4 career games against each other. Zubac had a double double in 3 out of 4 of those games, but he had 17 plus points in 3 out of 4 of those games. I don't know what his over under on points is at. I guess we can take a look real quick. 14 and a half is his over under. I mean, 4 games is not a big sample size, right? I mean, I could maybe beat LeBron James in a game of horse 1 out of 4 times, right? But so typically, like the bigger sample that we have, the better. But if you like Zubox for points today, I think you got a couple of things going for you. One of Kawhi Leonard's biggest strengths, really Phoenix is a good defensive team. They rank 6th in team defensive efficiency. There's certain players out there that will just get it done no matter how good a defense is, though. Is Kawhi one of those players? Is he playing on that level right now? I'll let you be the judge of that. But Phoenix is good at defending against those things that Kawhi Leonard's good at, which is really everything. But Phoenix ranks 10th best in points in the paint allowed per game, 4th in fast break points allowed per game, 5th in 3-point field goals allowed per game, all of which Kawhi are good at. Kawhi is projected to be the small forward today. How is Phoenix defended against the small forward position? Looks like they're below average in points per game allowed. Points per game allowed to the small forward position. Looks like they're pretty good at defending the 3 ball, but Kawhi Leonard versus Dylan Brooks. That could be his primary defender in this game. Maybe they'll try to pester him with Grayson Allen, but Kawhi versus Dylan Brooks, head-to-head statistics. Kawhi Leonard has a 5-3 career record against Dylan Brooks. The most points that he's ever scored against Dylan Brooks was 30. Just in the most recent games, Kawhi against Dylan Brooks, 27 points, 28, 26. And his points are over under 25 and a half. So he's gone over that in his last 4 out of 5 games against Dylan Brooks. 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 4 out of 8, really. But 4 out of 8 career games, 25 plus 5 out of 8 career games. So, yeah, I think Kawhi probably statistically looks a little bit better than Zubac in regards to like his matchup. Then you got Harden, right? And I didn't really necessarily want to dive into these player props a whole lot unless you guys had a question. But just kind of walking you through my thought process. And like I said, like I'm not like the number one source out there. There's tons of good sources out there. And, I'm just trying to just give you one other outlook to just how I think. I'm sure you can come across other people on all sorts of other social media platforms that are live streaming who they like and maybe why or why not they like them. Trying to see here. 3-point field goals allowed. So Gillespie, Royce O'Neal, and Dylan Brooks. I give them a general 3 point advantage in this game, but all three of those players for the Suns rank in the top 40 in the NBA in 3 point field goals made per game. The Clippers are slightly below average as a team in allowing 3 pointers per game to opposing teams. I'm seeing that these guys are listed as the point guard, small forward, and power forward. So let's go see what position the Clippers have been most vulnerable to in regards to 3 pointers allowed per game. It looks like they've been slightly above average to the point guard position. So maybe Royce O'Neal or Dylan Brooks has a better advantage here in regards to the 3 point shot. Probably whoever Kawhi is not guarding. All right. Which could be Dylan Brooks. I mean, it could be Royce O'Neal. I'm not quite sure. Maybe a mixture, but Kawhi, from my understanding, is a really good defender. So maybe I would be looking at the other two if I were interested in a prop there. But yeah, give me. Man, this one's tough for me. I don't want to go against Kawhi Leonard on the day that his jersey got retired from San Diego State University. But I kind of like Phoenix in this one. Phoenix is best against the spread. Devin Booker out for Phoenix. That could be the deciding factor for me here. Breaking news: James Harden is out for the Los Angeles Clippers today. So that's the thing, right? I could have gone over this game 10 minutes ago, right? Said I like the Clippers, and then since I'm doing this show earlier in the day, we can get some news that comes across that Harden's out, which we just did. So looks like personal reasons is why he's out. So Harden's out, huh? Harden and Booker. I'm gonna lean towards yeah, I don't like the fact that I'm going against Kawhi on the day that his jersey got retired, and I don't think he's lost in the NBA on February 1st, but I only think he's played 3 games, so maybe today is the day. I don't feel good about this one, but yeah, I'm gonna have to lean towards Phoenix money line. They're favored by 1.5. Sure, I'll lean towards that. But yeah, I don't feel great about that. But since I just got word that James Harden is out, let me roll through the injuries real quick. See if anything else has come up. We already know Clowney's out. Davion Mitchell for Miami is likely to play Sunday. Probable point guard for Miami. Still looks like we're waiting for Norman Powell news, but I'm seeing that he could return today. According to rotowire.com. And then Sarr is still questionable to play today. Bronny James is out today. Looks like about it. Okay. Cleveland at Portland. We got 2 other games to go over. Cleveland at Portland. Cleveland 1-game losing streak. Portland 4-game losing streak. Portland has won one regular season game in a row against Cleveland. Avila, listed as the projected point guard for Portland, is technically questionable to play in this game today due to a back issue. He's really the best player for Portland. And then Cleveland, yeah, we mentioned Garland's out and Mobley. I'm saying Garland is out today and Mobley is out today for Cleveland. Cleveland is worse against the spread than any team in the NBA this season. But I do give Cleveland a big points per game advantage, a big points in the paint per game advantage. Although, Mobley's out and he ranks first on Cleveland in points in the paint per game. But the next guys in the line that are good at that, Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen. Portland ranks 16th in points in the paint allowed per game. So they're not terrible at it. But, Cleveland ranks fifth best in points in the paint allowed per game. So Cleveland, is a better defensive team in regards to points in the paint allowed per game. But that may change a little bit with how with Mobley being out, So, points in the paint allowed, we can go look at that. And we can just go look at the last 3 games, Last 3 games, I think that is definitely important too. I give you more. I usually give you guys more of like a historical aspect on this stuff. But I think the current what's going on now is also really important too, right? Who's hot? Who's not? Is there is Cleveland much worse in points in the paint allowed per game when Mobley is out? I'm still seeing Cleveland the last 3 games. They've been good. They've allowed the 4th fewest points in the paint per game, even with Mobley being out. But I think there was the Nuggets, right? I think I was looking at a statistic for the Nuggets where they were really good at defending against something, but I looked at their last 3 games and they were the worst team against that category with like Jokic being out, So I think, looking at both aspects are important. What's going on now and what went on before. And I just know, like, I watch like a few streams for people, breaking down NBA games and stuff. And a lot of them have like what have you done for me lately type of show, how many times in the last 10 games have you gone over this line, and stuff like that. And I do think that stuff is important for sure. Okay, so if you like a 3-point shooter here today for Portland, then you got that working for you. That's Cleveland ranks 24th in 3-point field goals allowed per game to opposing teams. Cleveland's both of these teams are vulnerable to fast break points allowed per game. So Sharp there for Portland. Thibault, but he looks like he's out. Yeah, he's still out. And then Avila, they're all in the top 26 in fast break points per game. Donovan Mitchell, I would say, has a big fast break points advantage today. He ranks 5th best in the NBA. I want to know how Portland does against his specific position in regards to points per game allowed per game. They allow the 9th most points per game to his position. I know he's a good 3-point shooter too. And Portland's not necessarily bad at defending against 3-pointers, but I just want to see to his position. They are near the top. They're in the top 10 in 3-point field goals allowed to point guards. So I think the 3-point shot, just based on that alone, is going to be a little bit more difficult than usual for Donovan Mitchell to take advantage of today, unless Avia is out. That could change everything. But on paper though, he's got a nice fast break points advantage there. Um, and then both of these teams are pretty much just average defensively at rebounds allowed per game, assists allowed per game, and all that stuff. If you do like a player point prop in this game, both of these teams do send their opponents to the free throw line more times than league average. They're slightly below average in allowing opponents get to the free throw line. So if you're player prop person is good at getting to the free throw line, you have that added benefit. I'm gonna lean towards Portland in this one. I would wait for that Avia news. That's the thing is like, is that line set for Avia to play or not to play? Whenever I see like if players are questionable like that, that's something that I'm thinking about, is if Avia plays, well, right now Cleveland is 3.5 point favorites, right? So it's like if Avia plays, will the line stay about the same? Or if he doesn't play, will Cleveland then move to like 6 point favorites or something? Is the wait worth it? Um, Cleveland, they rank fifth in the Eastern Conference right now. The Blazers rank ninth in the Western Conference. It's a road game. I'm thinking that line is kind of set for, I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Portland, but I would probably wait because I think if Avia plays, yeah, it might go up to like +2.5, right? For Portland, maybe +1.5 is what I would be thinking, right? I've been in the football game a lot, so I'm transitioning back over to basketball. So I haven't necessarily had my full attention on basketball this season, but yeah, I would think that it if he does play, it stays about the same. Maybe goes to Portland +2.5, +1.5. But whereas if he doesn't play, that line may go to like Cleveland -5.5, 6.5. And then just for your notes, Avia has had a triple double in 1 out of 13 games against Cleveland. And then Donovan Mitchell has not had a triple double in his last 20 career games against Portland. So, yeah, right now I'm leaning towards Portland plus the 3.5, but I would, keep up to date with that Avia news. He is questionable to play today due to a back issue. He has played in his previous 2 games. And then we have the Oklahoma City Thunder versus my Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City, they've lost 1 game in a row. The Nuggets have won 2 games in a row. The Nuggets have won 1 regular season game in a row against Oklahoma City. THJ Hardaway needs 5 3-point field goals, made 3-point field goals, to move into the 19th place on the all-time 3-point field goals leaders list. He would pass Jason Kidd. Denver has a 2-2 record on Sundays this season, and Oklahoma City has a 7-2 record on Sundays this season. Jalen Williams is out for Oklahoma City. I mentioned that at the start of the show. Jalen Williams, and then Christian Brown is doubtful for the Nuggets. But I'm seeing that Jamal Murray and Jokic are probable to play for the Nuggets today. Seeing that Aaron Gordon is out. Yeah, so that happened on January 29th. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, is what they're saying here on rotogrinders.com or rotowire.com. Yeah, I'm seeing that Jokic and Murray are probable. But once again, I think Jokic could possibly be, under some minute limitations today. We'll just kind of see. I think when I did the injury updates earlier, they said that, he could see a slight bump in his minutes, right? He got 25 minutes in his last game. So um, that's definitely information worth looking into if you're interested in this game tonight. Will Jokic be limited? I would think a little there would be some limitations there, but like they're saying, maybe he does see a little bit more playing time. Um, you know, Points in the paint. I mean, Oklahoma City allows the fewest points in the paint per game this season. Denver ranks 18th, so Denver is slightly below average in points in the paint allowed per game to opposing teams. SGA, point guard for the Oklahoma City Thunder, ranks first on Oklahoma City and seventh best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. And then it's Jalen Williams, but we said he's out today, right? But then it's Chet Holmgren, who ranks 40th. So I'm concerned about that. And then fast break points. That's a concern of mine too. Being a Nuggets fan, Oklahoma City ranks first in that category. They don't allow a lot of fast break points per game, and we don't have our fast break points per game leader even playing today, or he's doubtful. Right, Christian Brown. I know not only this season is he our leader, but I think last year he may have led the entire NBA in fast break points per game. So that's a downfall where I think the Nuggets have to take advantage of, and I think they very well could. We'll look into it a little bit more. Is the 3-point uh, defense there from Oklahoma City, or the lack thereof? Oklahoma City ranks 28th in 3-point field goals allowed per game to opposing teams. When I checked this morning, that source could have updated, but overall, Oklahoma City, from my understanding, is not good at defending 3-point field goals, and Jamal Murray and Tim Hardaway Jr. are good at making 3-point field goals. Now, THJ usually comes off the bench, which he probably will today again, right? But let's just go look real quick at 3-point field goals allowed to the point guard position by Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder, they've allowed the 7th most this season. 3-point field goals. So not just are they bad as a team at 3-point defense, but they're below average and nearing the bottom of the league in 3-point field goals allowed to point guards. If you're thinking about taking a Murray points prop, I think something else we got to do is looking at Murray versus SGA head-to-head statistics, right? How many times in the past few games, has Murray put up solid numbers against SGA? Really, I'll go over Murray's point total with you real quick. This is from his most recent game, moving back, right? So Jamal Murray, 13 points in his most recent game against SGA, 25, 28, 17, 27, 14, 21. So, and then the 3-point game, I'm really seeing, Jamal Murray has really only had, let me see if wow. So they've played 25 career games against each other. And the most 3-point field goals Jamal Murray has ever had against him in a game is 4, and he only did that twice. All the other games, Jamal Murray has had like 3 3-pointers made, 2, 1, 0. His last game, he went 1 for 8 at the 3-point line against SGA, 2 out of 6, 3 out of 13, 2 out of 5. So it looks like SGA kind of gives him some difficulties. So that's another thing is this team may be terrible at defending, which, Oklahoma City's bad at defending against that point guard position in regards to 3-pointers allowed per game. But SGA versus Murray, that matchup, with the 3-point shot hasn't been that great there for for Murray. I'm just interested what they have Murray's 3-point field goals listed at. Over under 2.5 at -123. So, will he get 3 or more against SGA? He's only got there in a 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, 2 out of 6, 2 out of 7, 3 out of 8, 3 out of 9, 3 out of his last 10 games against SGA. And it's actually 3 out of his last 14, 15 that he's had 3+ 3-point field goals made in a game against SGA. So, I'm worried about the Nuggets tonight, to be honest with you. Rebounds allowed per game. If you like rebounds, Oklahoma City is vulnerable to rebounds allowed per game to opposing teams. OKC limits assists by opposing teams pretty well, but yeah, they're. And another thing here is with the Nuggets, and I know some of these numbers may be skewed. The Nuggets have been dealing with a lot of injuries this season, and they do have Jokic back. So maybe some of these numbers are a little bit worse, but or worse than what they look. But the Nuggets don't cause a lot of turnovers, and Oklahoma City doesn't turn the ball over. The Nuggets force the fewest amount of turnovers per game than any team in the league, and Oklahoma City takes care of the ball really well. So as much as I want to say, I like Denver in this one, I don't. Denver plus 7.5. Maybe with Jalen Williams being out for Oklahoma City, the Nuggets could definitely do it, right? The Nuggets could cover, but and I think especially with Jalen Williams being out, if Jalen Williams was in, oh man, I wouldn't have any hope. But the fact that he's out does make me have some hope. I would also maybe look to go see last year if there were any games Jalen Williams missed that the Nuggets played Oklahoma City. And how did the Nuggets fare against Oklahoma City then? But yeah, I think Oklahoma City's lost back-to-back games only 3 times this season. They're on a 1-game losing streak. I guess I'm leaning towards. Yeah, I mean, and the Nuggets are really good against the spread this season too, right? The Nuggets ranked second best against the spread in the NBA this season, 29-20, compared to Oklahoma City's 23-26 against the spread record. We're missing Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown though. So I don't know. The Nuggets are definitely capable of not just covering but winning this game. They really are. But I'm gonna lean towards Oklahoma City covering in this one. And then Jokic has had a triple double in 4 of his last 20 games against Oklahoma City. Just so you guys know, I think just when I was doing my general research this morning, I think the key things that really stuck out to me were the fact that the Lakers were 9-0 on Sundays so far this season. That really stuck out to me. I know it was a small sample size, but I don't think Kawhi Leonard has ever lost an NBA game on February 1st, which was the day that the college that he used to play at retired his jersey number. I think it's interesting the fact that the Lakers and Knicks played on this exact date in this exact location 1 year ago today. And Doncic was also traded to the Lakers on this day 1 year ago today. What else? I feel like there were a couple of other things that stood out, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Oh, what I was gonna do, guys, is so let me refresh this page real quick before I get out of here. I just want to keep track of something with you guys. So I want to see. I'm gonna make a list real quick. So I'm using that fantasypros.com, right? So I'm gonna make a list real quick of. You guys can hang out with me or not. Um, make a list of you know the worst teams in allowing points per game to point guards. So I'm seeing it's Utah, right? So quickly over under points. And I just want to see how many of these go over and under. All right. So what did we say quickly? Was that like 17 and a half? Over under 17 and a half points. Okay. And then so that's the point guard position. The Pelicans, I don't think they play today. Small forward position, the Lakers. So who's projected to be the small forward today for the Knicks? It was Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges. Um, over under 15 and a half points. So I'm just writing down what teams allow the most points per game to that position. Chicago allows the most to power forwards. So Wiggins, let's go check out his point total. So I just want to see how many of these players go over this point total that the line's at, and how many of them go under, and then compare that to the worst. If you catch my drift, teams that are the best against defending against a specific position, and how many of those players go over and under their point totals. But yeah, Andrew Wiggins over under 15 and a half points. And then it's the Kings allow the most points. So what's SARS to centers? Kings points per game to SAR over under 20 and a half points. And I guess I'll just do it for points today. So I got 4 of them down since one of these teams isn't playing. And then OKC will do, Jamal Murray. They allow the fewest points per game. Oklahoma City does the point guards. Shooting guards is going to be Houston. I don't think Houston plays today. Small forward, Golden State, they don't play today. Power forward, Phoenix Suns. So John Collins, over under points. And then center position, Detroit allows the fewest points to centers. So Claxton, we need to go find his point total. But yeah, I think like analyzing data is key, just because a team allows a lot of points per game to a position, sometimes they inflate those lines, and sometimes the lines are really low. It might be really low for Jamal Murray today, since Oklahoma City allows the fewest points per game to point guards. Also, people just might be hesitant on picking Jamal Murray today because Oklahoma City is so good at limiting those points per game. So I think like moving forward, we should keep track of that stuff. a little bit better. So next time I'm on the air, I'll mention it. And I actually did keep track of this the other day. I'll let you know what I got in just a second. Let me just go find a couple other player point totals. And you can do this for rebounds and assists too. You know, John Collins. Who he's with Utah, right? John Collins, or maybe he used to be with Utah. I'm drawing a blank. Clippers. Okay. Clippers, John Collins with the Clippers over under 14.5 points. And then Claxton for the Nets over under Claxton over under 10.5 points. So we'll see, man, because I think that's just important to keep track of. Okay, so those were the teams that allowed either the most or the fewest points per game to that specific position. So I have Quickly, Bridges, Wiggins, and Sarr. Um, you know, they have the best matchups today, according to fantasypros.com, in regards to points per game. And then Jamal Murray, John Collins, and Claxton are playing the toughest defenses to that position. So we'll keep track of that and see how it goes. And then next time I get on the air, I'll update you guys on that if you don't want to keep track yourself. And then let's see here. So I did this the other day, and I think for the players where they were going up against the weak position defenses, they 2 out of 3 of them went over. So it was Embiid over 27.5 points. He ended up getting 37 against Sacramento. And then it was Buscelli's rebounds against Chicago, over under 5.5 rebounds. Miami that day, this was on 129. So just a couple days ago. Miami allowed the most rebounds per game to power forwards. And he ended up having 9 rebounds. But then Wiggins, his over-under was 15.5. And he only had 10 points. And I think he had 10 points at halftime. And I think there were 7 that I had wrote down where the defense was the best against that position, whether it be that defense was best at limiting point guard rebounds or shooting guard assists. I think there were altogether 7 of those, and it went like 3 and 4. So 3 went over and 4 went under. So, anyways, I'll be keeping track of that stuff moving forward. And see if you guys had any questions here. It doesn't look like it. Well, I think, injury updates, and I always say this on these shows, injury updates and usage rates are probably the 2 most important things when it comes to player props. And then, what have you done for us lately? What have you done for us historically? Is there a reason why your usage rate could go up tonight due to these injuries? So before I get out of here, I just wanted to look at injury updates. So I'm seeing Wembanyama is now questionable to play for the Spurs today. And so is Stephon Castle. He is now questionable. And this is why it's tough to do shows this early, but I had to today. Try to do these shows for you guys as much as possible. As much as I can. But so obviously anything can pop up in regards to injury updates. RotoWire.com and the FanDuel Daily Fantasy app should be able to help you out with that if you do have trouble finding that information. And I think that just about does it. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Good luck today. If you could hit that subscribe button before you guys leave, we would appreciate that. And turn on those notifications so you don't miss whenever we're going live. That would be awesome. Also, thank you to our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, guys. Thanks again. Take care. Good luck today. I'll see you guys soon.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.